He's the son of a Cleveland radio legend making his own way in the entertainment business. And Open Door takes a look back at the Festival of Arts and a virtual event called When Art Meets Activism, a spoken word showcase that included stellar performances by Michelle R. Smith, Cuyahoga County Poet Laureate Honeybell Bay, and MKE poet Mwatabu Okantah. Open Door with Vince Robinson and special guest Ken Hawkins Jr. starts right now. You're listening to Open Door, and I have been joined by Mr. Ken Hawkins Jr. He is the founder of K-Hawk 2 Productions. Welcome to Open Door, my brother.
Thank you. I was excited to get the invite to be on the show.
Okay. And I have to say this, and everyone has probably been able to recognize your name, Ken Hawkins. You are the son of Ken Hawkins, obviously being junior. And I don't want you to have to exist in your father's shadow, but I would be remiss if we didn't mention him, who he is, and what his legacy is. So let's start just by talking a little bit about Ken Hawkins.
Senior. Okay.
Tell me about your dad.
Well, my dad, it's funny thing you say, tell you about my dad. I'm still learning things about my dad. When I go places and I talk to different people, people will tell me stories about my dad and what he's done, different accomplishments, for the city of Cleveland or for, the music industry. But, he started off in radio late 50s. I don't know exactly the year, 58, 59. Just sweeping floors at the radio station. And then he moved up from sweeping floors to be an engineer at the radio station. And then somebody told him that he had a very loud, strong voice and that he ought to be on radio. And so he decided to take up that idea of going on to radio, and he got his start at WJMO. He did 12 years on the radio as a DJ, and then he did 8 years as general manager of WJMO. And in between all that time, he had a TV show. Channel 5, WEWS, called The Ken Hawkins Show. And that show, I think it went on for 3 years, came on late night, very late night. And the whole concept was dancers and singers, different acts from Cleveland. And then as the show got bigger and better, he had a lot of acts coming in from Detroit. Detroit and Cleveland had a big connection back in the 60s. So a lot of artists from Cleveland, a lot of artists from Detroit were on his show. The Hesitations, the OJs, the Temptations, just to name a few. But he also had some dancers called the Ken Hawkins Dancers. And that was also a part of the show. And he, like I said, it went on for about 3 years. And then that show ended. And then he just stuck with radio. And he was managing a couple of bands, local bands from Cleveland. And he's producing a couple of bands. And in the meantime, he was connecting artists with Berry Gordy in Detroit. So, my dad played a very large role in helping Berry start Motown. As a matter of fact, in his book that Berry wrote, he thanked my dad for helping him put Motown on the map. He had kind of helped with the Temptations, become the Temptations. He did a lot of work with the OJs, a lot of the big name artists that were coming through Cleveland. Cleveland was big way back in those days with artists A lot of talent in Cleveland and Detroit, but Cleveland had a lot of talent that went on to do bigger and better things. That was then, but at the same time, not to change the subject, Cleveland still has a lot of talent. So, my dad recognized that, and he assisted in a lot of people getting to where they are now, including DJs. I still talk to a lot of DJs that are retired from radio, but still doing doing a few things here and there in broadcasting. And I still hear from a lot of them thanking my dad for helping them get their start. He was really big on helping people and helping the community and feeding the hungry. And every time I looked up, there was somebody that he was bringing home to have dinner with us just because they were hungry. My dad did a lot of little things like that a lot of people don't know about. But he was very big in giving. You give, it comes back to you.
Yes.
And
I want to ask you about that because, obviously your father was very well connected and had intersectionality with a lot of folks in the business. What was it like for you as a young person to see your dad interacting with all these folks that you were seeing on television and hearing on the radio?
It was no thought at all of who he was interacting with. My dad, as far as home is concerned, he kept home. We didn't talk a lot about the industry. As far as, it's such a difficult industry to be in, as you know. When he came home, he wanted to leave work at work. So we were raised of just, hey, get out there and cut the grass. Hey, Dad, I got basketball practice. We were just a very, very normal family. And I have 4 siblings, 5 of us total. And out of all of us, I was really the only one to gravitate towards the industry. But I still seeing it all. Whenever James Brown would come to town, we'd go up to his hotel, have lunch with him. When the Temptations would come to town, a couple of them would come to the house and have lunch with us at the house. Or some of my friends from the neighborhood would remind us of the Shy-Lights or the Delphonics or somebody coming to the house just to hang out in the yard. But he kept all of us grounded. As soon as lunch with James Brown was over with, we didn't think anything more of it. Whenever the Temptations were at the house, when they would finish dinner and go back to their hotels, we didn't think anything of it. And that's the way he raised us. So for me to see that at a young age, I've had people tell me, and your dad used to take you to meetings at the radio stations and at the concert halls and all these different events when you were 2 months old and 6 months old and 2 and 5 and 8 and all this other. And so I really didn't think anything of it. It was just his world, and I was just tagging along with him. But as I got older is when I realized what he was doing and what kind of life I lived and being backstage as he was introducing the Jackson 5 and all of that. I didn't really absorb how great that was until I actually became late in my late teens, early 20s, and then as I said earlier, people approaching me saying, "Oh, your dad did this and your dad did that," and to this day, I'm still in awe of hearing stories about what my dad did. But he raised me and my siblings to just live that normal life and not be anything or anywhere different from the rest of the kids in the neighborhood or the rest of the kids in my school that I went to school with. I've got classmates that don't even know who my dad is or was,
right,
or what he did, because when I went to school, I was just Ken. I was not Ken Hawkins' son.
Right. But there had to be a point at which you realized that there was something special going on. And the reason that I say this is just to give some perspective. I probably got a few years on you. We may be close. But I remember there was a time when you turned on the television set, you didn't see black people that often.
Correct.
So, it was a special event. Everybody come in the living room, because there was somebody black on TV,
Right.
You fast forward a few years and your father is on television and your father is on the radio. You riding around in the car and the radio is on and dad is on. What was that like for you?
And you know what? Again, I didn't think anything of it. The only thing I remember a conversation with him when we were in the car and he was doing a commercial. I remember the commercial being Spitzer Ford, as a matter of fact. And I said, Dad, how can you be here in the car driving and I hear your voice on the radio? And I was so little, I was so young at the time, I didn't understand tape recordings and all that. And he explained it to me. And I said, oh, okay. And that was it. I never saw my dad as being as big as he was growing up as a kid. I never saw him being big. He was just dad to me.
Yeah. No,
yeah.
I get it, bro. I really do. But I have to tell you that I'm extremely jealous because I grew up with the gospel of James Brown. I go back to Mother Popcorn and Lick and Stick and all them old songs.
Right.
And being someone who was or is a photographer of musicians and somebody who was really into music, I didn't see James Brown until I was well into my 30s after having grown up on James Brown. And I remember the first time, and I think the only time, that I witnessed a performance, and it was at the Front Row Theater.
Mm-hmm.
And the Front Row was kind of a stuffy venue. It was one of those places where you go into the concert and you're civilized.
Right.
You sit down through the whole concert. Because if you stand up, whoever's sitting behind you can't see.
Right.
And we still had a sense of decorum when we went to events back then. When I went to see James Brown, I was on my feet the entire show. I mean, I got my pictures. I still have the recording somewhere on cassette. But I was on my feet the whole show. It was like I was like a kid in the candy store. I was just so giddy. So, for you to have actually been there and, oh, well, we had lunch with Mr. Brown,
Yeah. It was weird. I mean, it's kind of strange just to look back on it and tell myself, I say to myself, man, I went to lunch. I had lunch on a regular basis with James Brown whenever he came to town.
Stop.
Yeah.
Don't rub it in.
Yeah. And back then, people would say, well, what are you going to order when you get there? And what about this? What about that? And I just said, and my siblings will always say, he's going to order his hamburger, French fries, and Coke no matter where he goes.
There it is. The standard order.
The standard of a 7-year-old, of a 9-year-old,
Okay. All right.
And,
okay. So just so you know, we're talking with Ken Hawkins Jr. He is the son of Ken Hawkins Sr., a legend in Cleveland radio and television. And we're getting into the life of Ken Hawkins Sr., but we're going to talk about Ken Hawkins Jr. when we come back. You're listening to Open Door Cleveland with Vince Robinson on 95.9 FM WOVU, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station. We'll be back after this.
Crazy T, what are you doing?
What you mean?
Why are you about to throw that out the window?
I'm saying I'm done with it. I didn't want to junk your car up. I was looking out for you.
No, I'm sure we'll make it stop. You could throw it out of a trash can or something. In fact, wait, I got a little bag I usually keep, right here.
I'm saying, is it that big a deal? The window's right here.
Of course. This is our community. We live here. This is our community.
I know. You're right.
Why would you want to junk up our own community?
Yeah, I ain't know you was going to get all, whatever, civil rights on it or whatever. You're right. My bad. I didn't know.
You should be in the uproar yourself, too, when you see people do it.
You know what? I'm going to do better. you know, because, this is my community. I got to live here. You're right.
We all need to do better. Don't litter.
Littering is a serious offense, punishable by fines up to $500 and or 60 days in jail.
Don't litter. This is your community. Brought to you by WOVU 95.9 BBC Community Radio. Our voices united.
Open Door Cleveland looks at the lives of people here and abroad, navigating the realms of art, culture, and society. I'm Vince Robinson. Tune in for inspired conversation with an array of guests and subject matter experts right here on 95.9 FM WOVU, Monday mornings at 11. Stream us live at WOVU.org or enjoy us live by purchasing the WOVU app from your favorite app store. Open Door Cleveland, Monday mornings at 11 on 95.9 FM WOVU, a Burtonville Car community radio station. We're back on Open Door with Vince Robinson. My guest is Ken Hawkins Jr., and we were talking about his father, Ken Hawkins Sr., and I expressed my jealousy because Brother Ken was able to have lunch with James Brown on a few occasions, and he had that standard hamburger, French fries, and pop, which is what I did when I was a kid. It was special to go out to eat, and it was always the default hamburger, French fries, Coke. But for me, it was the chocolate milkshake if it was available. But you mentioned that, and I'm flashing back to a birthday that I had. I can't tell you how many years ago it was, but I actually had dinner with George Clinton at the Majestic Theater in Detroit, Michigan.
Oh, okay.
It was a magical thing, because here I am sitting across the table from somebody who I revered on the same level that I revered James Brown. And I got to know him as a person that night. I was familiar with some of his struggles. I found out that he really likes to fish. He has a farm up there in Michigan somewhere, and his whole thing was just about being able to fish. It's really interesting when you connect with folks on that level, because then you find out that they're just people, just like
they're just people. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're just people.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So we've talked about the life that your father lived and how he was able to separate his family life from his public life and all of that. Let's talk about Ken Hawkins Jr. You said that you were really the only one of your siblings to follow in his footsteps in terms of your connection to the industry. So exactly what is it that Ken Hawkins Jr. is doing relative to the business?
Well, as a kid growing up, I'd always wanted to be a DJ because my dad was a DJ. And my second choice was to always be not just a DJ, but in the entertainment industry. I really enjoyed everything I saw growing up. When the DJs, back in the day, the DJs at WJMO, and you may remember this, did a lot of remotes. They broadcasted from different record stores. What's his name? The Crowd Pleaser. I forgot his name. He had a record store in Cleveland, and then there's another store, Bobby. I forgot Bobby's last name. He had a record store over there on the Lee Harvard area, and I used to go in with the DJs and help them set up the remotes and set up the tables and the turntables and help them bring in all the albums, and that was exciting to me. And I told my dad, I said, Dad, I want to be a DJ when I grow up. He said, I remember asking him, Dad, what do you think the audience is going to say when they hear that Ken Hawkins has a radio show? He says, well, they know it's going to be a good show. I said, yeah, well, I hope so. But then as I got older, I got less involved in wanting to do radio and got more involved in sports. So I was more growing up getting involved in baseball, football, and basketball. And I turned away from being a DJ, but I always was right there with my dad when different events were happening. But then as I got older, I realized that I definitely wanted to stay in the industry. And that's when I started managing artists. My dad moved us from, just a sidetrack for a minute, my dad moved us from Cleveland to California. He got an offer at a radio station in San Diego, and he accepted that offer to start the radio station from scratch, from the ground up. So, he did we did California for a while, and that's when I started managing artists. I had a little bit of everything, some R&B guys, some rock and roll guys. I was just kind of hanging out, trying to learn that side of the business. But what makes it interesting is my dad never wanted me to be in the business, because of the struggles that went along with it. So whenever I would say, Dad, I'm working on this project, he would just say, okay, and give me the nod. And time would go by, and I'm working on another project. And every single time that I said, Dad, this is what I have going on, he would just say, okay. We never got into a deep conversation about what I was doing, because he just saw how difficult it was for blacks to struggle in business and in the radio business. But he was bothered by the way people would not come together to work together. And that really bothered him more than anything else, was how people could not work together to get things done. And that was one of the reasons why he didn't want me to get into the business. But I stayed with it. And through the years, managing artists, I got to the point where I didn't want to manage artists anymore. I just wanted to promote concerts. And to make a long story short, my mom and dad got up in age, and they needed a change. So I moved them in with me. So after I moved them in with me, my dad, being retired and bored, he just screams out one day. He says, man, I'm bored. I said, well, Dad, you used to promote concerts. You used to put these shows together, and you see what I'm doing, trying to do the same thing. I said, I don't want to manage artists. I want to just promote shows. I want to be a concert promoter. I said, why don't we work together on promoting concerts? He said, yeah, that's fine. So as time went on, we were getting things started. And that's how I came up with the name K-Hawk 2 Productions. The 2 is me and my dad. The K-Hawk is me and my dad, Ken Hawkins. So that's how I came up with the name K-Hawk 2 Productions. And so one day we were sitting down talking about the difficulties of the industry. And he says to me, you sure you want to get into this business? I said, Dad, you didn't raise me. You didn't raise me in a garage because you were an auto mechanic, or you didn't work at the post office, or you didn't work at the grocery store. I said, you worked in the record industry. And I said, that's how you raised me, and that's all I know, and that's what I want to do, as I want to be in the record business. So he said, okay. So that's when we started K-Hawk 2 Productions, and maybe 6 months later, he passed away. Suddenly, it was kind of unexpected. Didn't know it was coming. That's another story. That's a whole other story. But it kind of gave me momentum to stick with what I'm doing as far as being a concert promoter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, once upon a time, I worked at WJMO.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of years, we had kind of a reunion of sorts. It was at a club that used to be called the Mardi Gras downtown Cleveland. And your father's name came up a lot in our conversations, and I think this may have been around the time that he made transition. So it's safe to say that he left a lasting impact on not only WJMO but radio in Cleveland. But I wanted to ask you this question because you mentioned that you wanted to move away from managing artists and move more into promotion. What was your disconnect with managing artists?
Managing artists is a lot of work, and you pretty much have to really know what you're doing, and you have to know it's your niche. And when you're doing something, no matter what it is, you could be working at Ford, at the Ford plant, but if you're not good at a certain thing, you need to find what you're good at. And I knew that promoting was my niche and managing was not. Managers, you have to be very creative, because you have to not only manage the artist, but you have to kind of manage and promote, to be honest with you. So managing an artist, especially nowadays, well, back then, when I started managing, social media wasn't as strong as it is now. So it was a different way of managing. It was a lot simpler, to be honest with you. But basically booking the acts, making sure they got paid, making sure everybody's where they need to be, things along that line. But I didn't feel that was me. For all those years I did it, that was not my comfort zone. And that's when I approached my dad and said, I'm switching gears and coming out of management and just strictly sticking to promoting.
Okay. The artists that you were managing, were they here in Cleveland or were they out in California?
This is in California.
All in California.
Yeah, all in California, yeah.
So you started your promotion business there and then you came back to Cleveland.
I came back to Cleveland. I started promoting with my dad, late 2015 going into 2016. But then that's when he passed. And then that's when people started actually he started making some phone calls when he was alive. He started making some phone calls of everybody that he knew saying, hey, my son, Ken Jr. is getting involved in doing some promotions. So he started connecting me to certain people. And then word started getting out that I was going to start getting into promoting. So people started introducing me to different artists, and I got involved with different artists. And there were one or two artists that wanted me to manage them, and I didn't jump in. I wasn't all in on that. I started doing a little bit of management, a little bit of promoting, but promoting was more my thing. So I did a couple of shows in LA. I did a gospel jazz show with Jonathan Butler and John J. Sax Watkins. That was a great show. I did it in LA. And then right after that show, maybe several months later, I was still learning the promotion world. But then several months later, it's like the Lord reached down to me and said, your heart is not in LA and it's time for you to go back to Cleveland.
Okay.
So, yeah. And that's where that came from.
Okay.
That me saying I'm going back to Cleveland is just something I was led to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about your return to Cleveland, and we're also going to talk about some of the competition because there are a long list of promoters here in Cleveland that I've been familiar with in my travels as an entertainment photographer and journalist. We're going to talk about that when we come back. You're listening to Open Door Cleveland with Vince Robinson and my guest, Mr. Ken Hawkins Jr. He is the founder of K-Hawk 2 Productions. We'll be right back on 95.9 FM WOVU.
We're streaming live on WOVU.org.
What can you do in the battle against COVID-19? Your mask, wear a mask, protect yourself and others.
Armor up, armor up.
Give those hands a 20-second shower with soap and water.
Armor up, armor up.
Give others space 6 feet just in case.
Armor up, armor up.
Get good nutrition, ingest for digestion.
Armor up, armor up.
Vitamin C, D3, and more.
Armor up, armor up.
Elderberries, zinc, and echinacea from the store.
Armor up, armor up.
Get some fresh air. Go climb some stairs.
Armor up, armor up.
Let go of stress. Make sure you rest.
Armor up, armor up.
Your breath is the key to life. Strengthen your immune system, follow the guidelines, and win the battle against COVID-19.
Armor up, armor up.
I'm Sophie Absolutely.
My name is Ken Hawkins Jr.
I'm Love Lachey XO.
This is Darnell Carter, the family man.
This is Vanessa Whiting.
This is Erica Abrams.
This is Reggie Hyman.
Yo, what it do is your girl DJ Coco Z, and you rocking out to WOVU 95.9 FM.
We're back on Open Door with Vince Robinson with my special guest, Mr. Ken Hawkins Jr. Before we took the break, we were talking about his return to Cleveland. He was out there in California, out there hanging out with the celebs and the stars and the musicians out there in La La Land. And he came back to Cleveland with a new production company that he founded with his father. And I was just, flashing through my mental Rolodex and remembering some of the promoters that I had worked with doing concerts here in Cleveland at the Front Row and the Coliseum and other venues. Specifically, I'm thinking of Heyman's. I'm thinking of a brother by the name of Louis Moore, whom I'm sure you probably know of.
Right.
And there are a few others. So you come back to Cleveland with this idea of being a promoter. How did things happen for you? How did you jump into this swimming pool?
It's interesting. As soon as I got back into Cleveland, I had a meeting with a brother named Ernie. Ernie does a little bit of everything. He's not necessarily in the not in the entertainment industry, but he does a little bit of everything. But he does also dabble in entertainment. But I went into his office to talk about a couple of things, and this was just as soon as I moved back, I should say. And he says to me, "There's a young lady by the name of Debbie. She works with me as an assistant, and I want you to meet her because I think you guys would be a good connection for doing business together." So we met up, and she says, I do a lot of things. I worked in the corporate world for many years, and I'm good at connecting people, and I'm really good at connecting dots, and I want to help you get your business started here in Cleveland. So we agreed to see how this would work out, and it worked out great, to be honest with you. She's really a great assistant. She draws people to within herself. A lot of people know of her or know of her, and let me rephrase that. A lot of people know her, but they also know of her, and so a lot of people. She connects me to a lot of people that are helping me along the path of where I'm trying to go. So she's still with me to this day. As my assistant. And as her and I started trying to put things together, I met another brother along the line. His name's Russell, and Russell came into our mix for doing a lot of technical things, for a lot of camera work. He does camera, he does editing, he does a lot of things. He builds websites, he does a little bit of everything. And then he became a part of the team. And then our fourth team member, his name is Jerome. Jerome showed up one day because somebody told him to show up at the office at one of our meetings. So Jerome just pops his head in and says, I know what you guys are doing, and I just want to come in and watch and learn. And he asked if that would be okay. And to make a long story short, he's now a part of the team, and he's a good person to have on the team. So the four of us, we're the core of the team, and I necessarily, and we talk about, our team talks about it a lot. I lead my team, but I don't boss my team, but I do lead them, because everybody's opinion counts, and whoever has the best idea, the best opinion of what will work and what doesn't work, that's what we go with. So, I may bring up some ideas, but I'll get shot down in a minute. They'll tell me, no, that's not going to work. We're not going to do it that way. We're going to do it this way. And they explain to me why it's going to work differently with their thoughts, and I'll go that direction. So I never boss my team. I just lead my team, and whoever has the best idea works. So we've been together a couple of years, and it's a slow process, but they say it takes, I think there was 2 to 3 years before you really start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel as far as what you're doing, and we're seeing it now. And what's interesting about this is Debbie called me one day and says, we're getting called. We got a call for someone who's looking for a manager and wants to know if you want to manage their band. And I told her, I said, I'm not really into managing. It's not my niche. And so Deb says, well, if I managed, would you back me up on if I have questions? And I said, yeah, I'll back you up. So to make a long story short, she ended up taking on a client and managing this artist. And then we got another phone call. Another month later, we got another phone call. Another month later, we got another phone call. Hey, I understand you guys are managing artists, and we want to jump on board. So now K-Hawk 2 Productions not only does promote events, but now we're a management team. I didn't know that was the direction we were going, but it's something we've taken on. And in hindsight, with this COVID thing, we can no longer do events indoors. We can only do it outdoors, and can barely do that with a good audience. But with wintertime coming in and not able to do events outside, the management segment has kicked in now, where we're just working with our artists and trying to put some video footage together and getting them ready for 2021. So my team is it's formed. I don't know. I think there could be more things happening for us because our phone rings often. A lot of people want to meet with us to share their ideas and help us move forward. And man, I'm grateful. It's so far so good. But like I say, the virus thing has dampened everybody. Not just, the world has changed because of it, and so has the entertainment industry. So we're just trying to fight through it and help our artists, get their futures together also. And they're grateful that we've come along, and I'm grateful that Deb has taken the lead on that. She's taken a lead on managing the artist, and I back her up on whatever she needs, and the whole team we back her up on what's happening with that. So far so good.
Yeah,
so good.
So I definitely wanted to get into the whole COVID piece and how that has affected your business. But before we get to that point, I want to get some perspective on what you did prior to that. So can you tell us some of the things that you did before COVID hit, some of the productions that you facilitated, and what things look like pre-COVID?
Pre-COVID was really a lot of trial and error. But, it's good to have error because you learn from what's right and what's wrong. So we basically spent the last 2 years of just setting things up. Of establishing who we are. Like I say, right before I left LA, my last show was a gospel jazz show with Jonathan Butler and John J. Sex Watkins. But then when I moved here to LA, I was still trying to set up. As a matter of fact, I did set up an event with John Watkins at a penthouse suite. I was setting up to do events on a regular at a penthouse suite in downtown Cleveland that was converted into a lounge, a jazz lounge. And man, as soon as we started that up, that's when the governor came in and said, okay, we're closing down everything, and this is happening and that's happening. And not only did the governor say what he had to say, but the audience was also saying the same thing. Hey, we want to come see John, but we're afraid of going to indoor events. So everything before COVID was more of a setup period for the production team more than anything else. And it took a while, but I was in no rush. You know, I had other things going on besides the music industry, so I was focused on other things that I was doing besides promotion. So I spent a good while, my first couple of years here in Cleveland, just dotting I's and crossing T's and forming my team and knowing what direction we were going. So sadly enough, things really start picking up in February, March, and then bam, we got hit. And that's when I approached my team and said, hey, that's not going to stop us. Let's start doing outdoor events. And so we first started doing drive-in events, but we changed it from drive-in to drive-up. So we did a show out in Lorraine not long ago with Carlos Jones and Sammy De Leon. And that went okay. I felt it could have went better, but there's a lot of people still afraid to be out in public. So I'm now, as LeBron said, I'm taking my talent somewhere else, but just for the wintertime. So I've connected with a couple of people. One is a promoter, one is an investor out in L.A. So I'm going back to L.A. soon to try to get some outdoor events going out there, because the wintertime on the West Coast is 65, 75 degrees, and they can still do things outdoors. So I'm giving that a shot as we speak. So that's what we're working on now is putting together shows out on the West Coast.
Okay. So in essence, you kind of had to reinvent yourself again based on the circumstances. But
correct,
like they say in show business, the show must go on.
It must go on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Things got to get done. You gotta keep the wheels spinning. You just can't say, woe is me, man. You gotta keep things going. If you want success in whatever you're trying to do, can't just sit around and can't sit around and wait for stimulus checks. So you gotta keep things happening.
Right.
So that's what we're doing. So I feel confident that it's going to work out for us.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I certainly appreciate the time that we've been able to spend together. It seems as though you're triumphing over the adversities that we're facing. So we're looking forward to what will happen when the weather breaks, and we can get back to at least witnessing shows outside.
Right.
We will endure the long Cleveland winters that don't seem to end until sometime in May.
And May and June. Yeah. Yeah. So that's basically, what we're doing. That's what my team is doing now. We're just getting ready for 2021, for the spring, summer months. And, we don't know where we stand in this world as far as the virus is concerned. But if we get out of the red zone and go down to the yellow zone or below or whatever that is, and we get more of a little bit, things are better under control with the virus, then we'll know what we can do and cannot do. So we're just working on, being ready so that we'll know what's next when we get the thumbs up to do it.
Well, I got a feeling that as soon as that vaccine comes out, things are going to change drastically.
Yep.
We will see.
Yep.
As they say, stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. Exactly.
Yes. Well, thank you for joining us today, Brother Ken Hawkins Jr., and we look forward to the first show of next year somewhere in Cleveland.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, and I'm I'm just saying with you, I'm looking forward to the next show also. One other thing I didn't mention is I am doing some streaming. So I'm putting together some events coming out of the Bop Stop. So I'm working on that as we speak, of putting together some streaming events out of the Bop Stop. And once that gets more concrete, I'll start promoting that also.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, we'll have you back, and you can fill us in on all the details.
Thank you very much, brother. I appreciate you having me on.
All right. Ken Hawkins Jr. right here on Open Door Cleveland with Vince Robinson. We'll be right back right here on 95.9 FM WOVU.
Hi, this is Glenda Dames Fincher from Kincaid's Kindred Spirits Sickle Cell Support and Youth Mentoring Group. Here's a quick word about the importance of blood donation in the African American community. African American patients with sickle cell disease are less likely to have physical reactions to blood donated by other African Americans. African American donors are almost 3 times more likely to match the blood needed for sickle cell patients than are non-African American donors. It's extremely important to increase the number of available blood donors from all ethnic groups. To schedule your life-saving donation today, go to redcrossblood.org or call 800-RED-CROSS. Thank you, WOVU 95.9 FM, for helping support sickle cell awareness.
This is Aja Jones,
Tracy Clark,
Kiko,
Yolanda Armstrong,
Brian Webster.
This is TC Lewis, and you are listening to WOVU 95.9 FM.
On the penultimate weekend preceding the historic election of 2020, a special virtual event made possible by a grant from Neighborhood Connections called The Festival of Arts aired live on Facebook. It was called When Art Meets Activism and featured spoken word performances by writer Michelle R. Smith, Cuyahoga County Poet Laureate Honey Bell Bay, and Kent State University professor and poet Mwatabu Okantah. Here's an excerpt from the live event featuring Okantah, accompanied by Vince Robinson.
For too many white people, being white makes it possible to pretend to not see the darker brother. Never really color blind. They see skin color through the lens of their distorted comfort zone, sublime in white people time. You know, I was in a virtual town hall on campus. You know, everybody is stressed, and I get it. And we had come together as black faculty and staff, and a couple of my younger colleagues, and I really felt for them because they were asking for advice on how to deal with white colleagues who, before George Floyd and the reaction to all of this, people who didn't pay any attention to them at all. But now they're asking them, how do you feel? And it's a tenuous situation working in white society. But now is the time for us to tell them how we feel. For real.
For real.
You know, for real. And because these things are not new, but this is also a time where white people got to start talking to each other. I felt this all along. Donald Trump is a test for the white people who say they're not racist, for the white people who are the good white people. If all white people not racist, and I can go for that. But y'all got to check each other, you know, and you got to deal with the society's hypocrisy. And this one is called hypocrisy. King said he'd been to the mountain top, said he'd seen the promised land. But what promise? What land? Another video? How many more black people have to go dead? Blue knee on neck of handcuffed George Floyd. No knock bullet shot through Breonna Taylor's door. Armed police always say they are afraid after they make war. Afraid of what? Afraid of who? Fear is the mask they wear to disguise the demons lurking deep inside the private corners of their nights. Is their fear real or is it imagined? Dis-ease or rabid dog rage? How many more injustices will it take? Is justice blind? Or is she just blindfolded? Or is it just the same old America turning stark black truth into same old white lies? Here's a poem I shared with my wife. Some people think I don't have a sense of humor. I mean, and I do. I just think some people find my sense of humor difficult, too sharp. This is called nostalgia. Lost in lost causes, the see no evil, hear no evil folk long for a history they proudly imagine in golden age Hollywood stars. MAGA bully wanna resurrect ghosts from the Gone with the Wind past. Him think Melania must be Scarlett O'Hara and he be Clark Gable's Rhett Butler. Trump really wanna be president of the old Confederate States so he can wrap his for real self in the stars and bars. I can just do this. There's one more poem I want to read. It's called Politics. And this is from my new book. It's called Gorilla Dread, Poetry for the Heart and the Mind. And my stuff comes from black publishers, small black publishers called Africa World Press. My books are available. Just search my name in Amazon, and you can get the books, and the money goes to my publisher, and my publisher actually pays what they call them things, royalties. But you know, people have to do what you perceive your duty to be. And in terms of my activism, the work that I do as an educator on campus working with students, the work that I do as a person who has been the director of the African American Cultural Center at Cleveland State. I was director of the Center of Pan-African Culture for years at Kent State. And so the kinds of work that I do as an activist is not going to change no matter who takes the White House. You know, it's like we have serious work to do, and we need to be about that work. And for me, it's about recognizing the politics. You know, it's about recognizing that we still dealing with a situation where we looking at two old white men. You know, we need to
change it up a little bit.
I'm here to tell you.
It's time for change.
I'm here to tell you. And, you know, we're in an era where the female energy has to reassert itself in order for us to become balanced as a people. That is the African way. And so, you know, I'm about to become the interim chair of the Department of Pan-African Studies, which is a daunting task and challenge for me. But I'm following 3 very brilliant and strong black women who've been running the department for the last several years. And I now realize that they've been grooming me for what it's now my turn to do. Because I'll be honest, when I was first asked to step up, my immediate response was no. I'm trying to coast off into retirement so, you know, we can move back to the village in Ghana and I can get out of Babylon. But
welcome home, Atonkwa.
Check it out. But, you know, I've given over the last 40 or so years of my life trying to help our people wake up. You gotta wake up to stay woke. Okay? And we're in another time when it's wake up time. So this is called politics. The last time America was number 1, the Indians were unseen on reservations. The niggers were in that Jim Crow place. The wetbacks were on the right side of the border. The Asians were in Asia, and women were quiet in the kitchen, barefoot and pregnant. The Donald's not so new message resonates with those Trump drunk on alternative facts and fake news. Even fake Negroes drink the Kool-Aid while they sit silent in photo op heaven. I didn't know Ice Cube was a fake Negro. A Florida politician says we should go back to Africa. I guess he forgot they abducted us here against our will in the first place. A time when enslaved Africans were the currency that made America great. My passport is in order. They reneged when General Howard promised 40 acres and a mule the last time white folks didn't know what to do with us. This time, what about first-class airfare and a reparations check that's long overdue? Seems like they've been confused ever since Brown versus the Board of Ed and Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat to that white man on the bus. So thank you, Tammy Kennedy, and thank you, Michelle, and my brother Baba Yao. I call him Yao.
Yes.
Yes. And my sister warrior poet, Honey Bell Bay. Yes.
Yes.
It is such an honor to be on such a platform with such strong voices. It truly is.
Our thanks to Ken Hawkins Jr. for sharing his story and continuing the legacy of the senior Ken Hawkins. Special thanks to Tammy Lynn Kennedy, Michelle R. Smith, Honey Bell Bay, and Mwatabu Okantah for an extraordinary evening of the spoken word. And to you for listening to this program. You can find podcasts of this show by going to my YouTube channel. please like and subscribe. Follow my Facebook page and find me on Instagram as Vince.Robinson. Know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, and make today your best day. Peace.